to write a paper 1 question 2. Okay? Now, this is worth 8 marks. In a real exam, you would probably spend about 5 minutes planning this and about 10 minutes writing it. This is about the first one you've done, or certainly the first one you've done in a long time. So today we might spend a little bit longer on that. So we're going to do about 10 minutes of discussing and planning it, and then we're going to write it for about 15-20 minutes today. Okay? And then you can type it up and put it in your GCSE pod tomorrow. People at home, you're going to type it up into GCSE pod. Okay?
I've got my details.
We
I'll
can
help
look
you
it
out
out.
in a minute, Ollie. Okay?
Actually, no, I don't think I've got it actually.
We'll sort it out, don't worry.
Sort it out for you. So we're going to have a look at this extract very carefully, and we're going to decide on 4 or 5 things that we're going to really draw out on here, okay? So, she let go of the bike and abandoned it right there, where it fell, on the tarmac road. She began to run across the open grassland, feeling the whipping wind as she fled. So from that section, what could we pick to describe the tornado here? What would be a good, short quotation of 2 or 3 words, do you think, here? What would you choose, Mr. Minton?
Whipping wind.
You would choose the whipping wind. Why would you choose that?
I would choose that because I think it really creates the idea of the wind sort of running towards her, the idea of danger. And I think if you link that with the fact that she abandons her bike, I'd use that word as well.
So
She's left with no choice, and it makes the wind sort of seem like this aggressive. We talked about power, didn't we? This sort of aggressive, powerful force charging towards her.
Yeah, that makes her feel helpless.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Absolutely. So I think Miss Minton's quite right, and I think this is going to be our first point. So she feels very helpless, and she feels very desperate. She's got no choice. She's frightened. She feels like she's under attack by this aggressive force, and she feels like she's in real danger. Okay? So we've got some interesting verb choices here, haven't we? We've got the word abandoned, where she's just left it and gone, and we've got this idea of whipping, okay, here. So the method here, okay, and you need to write this down, because you've got to identify what the writer is using as well. So we've got the verb choices here. What in particular could we say about the verb whipping? What do we associate with that word?
Dangerous.
Dangerous. Can we be even more specific, Ollie? Pain, absolutely.
Devastated.
Punishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Punishment.
So we've got this idea of pain and punishment. How does whipping feel? If you're whipped by something?
Stinging.
Yeah, so we've got this idea of
Scarring.
yes, I absolutely stinging, scarring, absolutely, cat o' nine tails, brutality, okay? So this idea of brutality, lovely. You could write that in your response.
It feels like a good
You
punishment.
could write that in your response. You could say it almost reminds me of the cat o' nine tails, this idea of painful punishment and beating, yeah?
Remember that it's really important to write these words down, because later on when you write this, when you go back to the library, you need to be writing this answer up, and all the answers are here, okay? This idea of brutality, desperation, the aggressiveness of it. If you don't write them down, you won't be able to write about that in 15 minutes. So make sure you're noting them down.
Yeah. And you can write anywhere on your page, guys. Draw yourself an arrow. It doesn't just have to be next to it. Use the whole page.
Use the back of the page.
Back of the page. We're just using this section, okay? So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, let's look at the next section then. She ran like the devil himself were chasing her, ran like all hell was biting at her ankles. The coarse grass was slowing her movement, wrapping around her legs, but she wouldn't let it pull her down. So in that next section, what do we think might be quite useful here? What would you choose, Chloe?
I think I'd choose a bit where it's like chasing her, like she's trying to get away, but it's like still there. It's like trying to like get her.
Okay, so we've got this really good. I mean, we've got a great simile here, haven't we? She ran like the devil himself were chasing her. Okay, why is that quite powerful?
It's like I think using the fact of it being the devil as well. It's really like.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This idea, this simile, using the devil himself, you've got this real extreme fear and panic. Because the devil is like the worst thing, isn't it? This is the worst thing we can possibly imagine. If the devil gets hold of you, where's he dragging you?
To hell.
To hell. Okay, so this is about life and death, isn't it? Okay?
A malevolent force.
Yeah, oh, can I use that?
I suppose so.
Malevolent, that's that lovely orange word. What does malevolent mean?
It was on the wall.
Yes, it was. Well
What
done.
does it mean? Malevolent.
Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, evil intent. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. So we've got this great simile, this idea of being chased by the devil himself, extreme fear and panic, this really evil, malevolent force. Wonderful.
I think I'd like to talk about the repetition as well. She ran like all hell was biting her, ran like the devil himself. What does that suggest? Ran. It's said 3 times in that sentence. It's what, sorry? What's the effect of that repetition?
Scary.
Why is it scary?
Because you're being chased.
Yeah.
What does it? The fact that she keeps repeating it, what does that do about being chased? Does it make it more
Intense.
I think intense is a great
Brilliant.
word. Okay, so we've got this idea of it intensifies. Okay, a panic, and also you get a sense of, don't you, the speed that she's moving at. Okay, so this is she's going everything, she's throwing everything at it. Okay, right, lovely. So there were. So there were the rocks and the half cave. She threw herself in just as the whirling funnel picked up over her head. And through the crack in the stone, she saw her little green bicycle hooked up by the finger of the wind and pulled high into its centre. What's being used here? Hooked up by the finger of the wind.
Oh, it's like
Personification.
Fantastic.
A lot of force. It's forceful. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, we got an effect and a technique used there. Well done.
Wonderful. So, we've got here personification, and that's when you give something that isn't human-like features. So we've got this personification, hooking it up, and we really get the sense of that power, again, that force, okay? What kind of impression does that give you, that idea of his little finger?
Can you link it to anything else in the extract? What simile was used earlier, comparing the tornado to be like whom? The devil. Does that help you with the sort of the idea of the wind hooking up the bicycle?
It's kind of almost like what's he doing with that bicycle?
He's taking it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got this idea of I'm going to up level your vocab there a minute there. So we've got this idea of conquering, consuming,
Attacking.
attacking.
And I think you've got the adjective little as well, the idea of her bicycle sort of being quite innocent.
It's a really big threat.
Brilliant, that's a great word, threat.
Yeah. And I think you've also got this sense, I don't think we've used this word yet, but you've got this idea of menace. You know, that idea of something that's menacing and deliberately doing something evil, like it's a choice. So, we've got some really good evidence here. What we're going to do in a minute when we write this up is we're going to tie this all together. But what we need to finish with is a bit of an overall statement. So what impression overall are we given of the tornado here? We can do better than that. If we were going to use 3 adjectives here for you.
Menacing.
So menacing. I think that's right up there, isn't it? So we're going to say overall we're left with the impression of the tornado being menacing.
Try and use some of the words we talked about. Brilliant.
Intimidating. Wonderful. And ultimately what?
Somebody gave a word before, yeah, monster.
Monstrous is amazing.
The creature from the light.
Oh, I love that. Anything that you can do,
Terrifying.
anything that you can do in your own words, like saying that it's this terrible creature, it being terrifying works really well. So it's menacing, it's intimidating, it's monstrous, and what does it have the power to do?
To grab anything forcefully.
Yeah, to take
Pull you
anything,
down.
to bring anything down. It's deadly, it can take your life, it can take your things, it can ruin everything. And use that lovely word Ollie used at the beginning, that power of destruction
Yes.
that it can bring.
Take your family.
Okay, so
It
she's
can be life changing as well, because like if it destroyed the whole
Mhm.
absolutely could be life changing. Okay, so what we're going to do now we've annotated
annotated it is we're going to look at how we knit that together.